to Columbia Savings and Loan for sponsoring our show. Thank you so much for joining. Last week, we talked about estate planning. And in particular, we talked about guardianships. We talked about a little bit about what is unfortunately happening to Wendy Williams, just from a standpoint of celebrities going through things. We use that as a learning example, a case study to really think about how these topics affect us in our daily lives. Um, One of the services that I offer at my law firm is estate planning services. So I wanted to break that down a little bit because that's such a broad topic. And today I wanted to talk specifically about wills. What is a will? Why is a will important? Um, how to prevent people from fighting over your will and what terms you put in your will. And I want to discuss some things that married couples should consider discussing before they contact an attorney to talk about drafting a will. So, for today's discussion, hopefully the audience will call in. The number here is 414 444 5250. Give us a call with your questions, your comments, or any stories that you might have to share that would underscore the importance of having a will. So, first thing I would like to talk about is what is a will? Sometimes you hear it referred to as a last will and testament. So, that's basically the same thing. So, a will is a legal document that describes how you would like your property and your assets to be distributed after your death. So, there are certain people who are described in the context of a will. A person that is referred to as a testator, that's the person who creates the will. So if it's your will, you are the testator. An executor or a personal representative is the person that you appoint to carry out whatever it is you are directing to be done in your will, and a beneficiary. And so beneficiaries are the people who inherit through the terms of your will. So whoever gets the gifts or the assets or whatever the property is that you are directing should be handled in your will, that person is called a beneficiary. So what are the benefits of having a will? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that it's important to have a will so that you can decide where you want your assets to go. If you don't have a will and you die intestate, that's what the law calls it when you die without a will. Intestate. And if you die without a will, if you die intestate, you think you don't have a will. Oh, you have a will. If the state of Wisconsin will impose a will upon you.
I was going to ask you that, raise my hand and ask that. What happens if you don't have a will? Maybe you should have started with that one.
Yeah.
Because if you explain the drama, people will better want to hear the correct way to do it.
Oh, see, now that's the perfect segue, Keon. That's a perfect segue.
Yeah.
The people who know me best know that I am the number one Prince fan ever, right? I'm going to take that stand.
I don't know. I don't know.
People try to challenge me on that, but
I'm not, but I know something.
Yeah, I was going to say.
They got a purple room and everything.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Hey, just quiz me anytime about anything old school Prince, every song on each one of those first albums, but okay, I digress. But I bring him up. I bring up the late great raging genius, as I refer to him, His Highness Prince. I bring up this example because well, I know there's people that disagree, right? There's people that say that Prince had a will, they just, did away with it. And I've heard those types of conspiracies, but all I can go by is what the law says. From a legal standpoint, Prince unfortunately died without a will.
Because let me ask you, because if you have a will, it's on record somewhere because it's been handed in to a county or a city or something like that, right?
That is absolutely a possibility, right? Because, for instance, here in Milwaukee County, you're able to actually place your will on file with Milwaukee County,
Yes.
so that in the event of your death, Milwaukee County can access that will that is on file. But not everyone does that. Sometimes people will have a will and, they'll tuck it away somewhere and others can't find it. Or maybe they have it in a safe deposit box somewhere. That's better than just tucking it away where no one knows where it is. But that is an important thing. If you have a will, you got to let somebody know where to locate that will, because if you don't have it on file with the county and if they can't find it, then you have this issue of whether or not this person had a will. But as far as the law is concerned, Prince unfortunately is a person who died without a will. And from my research, at the time that he died, he had an estate that was valued between 200 to 300 million dollars. So we're talking about a lot of money. And in his case, when he died, he had no spouse, right? And he had no children. So I'm bringing that up because of the comment that I made a moment ago about dying without a will. And let's say if you're in Wisconsin, the state of Wisconsin will impose a will upon you, where basically there's laws that address the order of what's called intestate succession. So, in other words, if you don't have a will, who inherits?
Gotcha.
So, if you are a married person, you die without a will, then they look to your spouse as a person who would then, by law, become to heir to your estate.
What about if you're married with children?
Well, see,
or married with children from a previous marriage?
you're right with me.
Yeah.
You're right with me.
Not necessarily children of the
Yes.
married person. But
See, that's when it gets more complicated, because that is exactly the question. Because
but first, if you marry and have children with the person you're married to, it's just split up amongst the family, right?
right, it would
Okay.
go to, according to statute, to your spouse.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But if you have children that maybe preceded that marriage, well, then it's not so clear that it goes to the spouse. The children may also inherit in a situation like that. So in his case, with no spouse and no children, then it wasn't a Wisconsin case, which is, we're talking about Wisconsin law, but other states have similar type statutes. And in Prince's case, his estate passed to his 6 siblings. And one of them, I believe, he had a sister that was his full sibling, that they had the same father and mother, and the others were half siblings. And, it's troubling because with some of the things that I read, he had actually been at odds with one of those half siblings. There was a sister that there was litigation between them from some years ago.
Okay.
So who knows whether or not he would have liked to have had any of his estate go to her or any of her heirs, but because he died without a will, that is what happened in that case. So again, from my readings, 3 of those 6 siblings sold their shares to a company that bought the rights to Prince's back catalog. And I bring that up because I think about all the time that he spent fighting with Warner Brothers about his estate, or excuse me, not his estate, but about his rights to his music. And I don't know if the audience might remember a time when he changed his name and he was the artist formerly known as Prince, and he wrote the word slave on his face because he worked for all these things, but yet they had ownership of it. So he protested for years and made such a point and had such legal battles and so forth in order to regain the control of the rights to his own music, and only to unfortunately pass away and not have a will that directed it wherever he may have wanted it to go, but it went according to the laws of intestate succession. And it took about 6 years to settle that estate and about $3 million in attorney's fees. So the attorneys kind of, cashed in. Yep, they got paid for sure. And I just doubt that that's what he would have wanted. So looks like there's a caller that's calling in. Thank you, caller. Go ahead.
Well, good afternoon. Is it still morning yet? Well, good morning. Pardon
I
me.
think it's morning. Thank
Yes,
you.
Tyrone W. speaking. Good morning again to everyone, nephew, Milwaukee. Yes, I've been quite regular all this week with Representative Myers and Keith and everybody else. So forgive me if I'm, but it's a learning process for all of us.
Yes.
Prince and I, we were born the same year. Prince met Michael and myself. Prince older than me. I'm older than Michael. Michael was August. I'm July. Prince was in June. So
Yes.
same year. So
Yeah.
you're talking to a piece of the glory right here out of the three. Uh,
Wow. Okay.
feel free to join hands with me whenever you want to. I'll let you shake my hand.
Okay. We appreciate that.
But on the serious side, you're speaking about Prince, y'all. God rest his heart and soul there. Michael as well. It was a very good year. I think about that, and I think about Morris Day, Sheila E., Sherelle, and some of the others there that were part of his music entourage and the things that they did together.
Yes.
And it made me think of Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Now I want you to write this down: will versus insurance. Okay, now just sit on that for a minute. Let that marinate for a minute. Now, Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Greenwood, Archer, and Pine Gap Band. I had to learn through that song there that's what that was all about, as opposed to partying. After seeing Gap Band a couple of times there, I had to learn the hard way because Dr. King, Malcolm X, and all them wasn't talking about it. So I learned the hard way that Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma got bombed. Now, bring in will versus insurance. Um, wouldn't and the descendants, or I should say the previous holders of Black Wall Street, if they had wills and insurance, then not saying that you may not be an expert on insurance there, but it seems like there's some overlapping there where they may have had wills and they should have had some kind of insurance. It seems to me like they're owed either way. Somebody owes them something either way, whether they had wills, insurance, and or both. You know, and they got bombed by the feds actually after these Caucasians went down here to get this boy after claiming this Caucasian woman claimed that he did something to her in this elevator, and wanted to get him out to jail and do all this stuff to him, just like Emmett Till. Long story short, I don't want to suck all the air out your show there, but it seems to me like, these insurance companies and these people with all these documents and stuff kind of got us by the testicles here, because we're damned if we do like Prince and we're damned if we don't. Just like Tulsa, Oklahoma there, when we get stuff, they bomb us and take it from us. Many others, Harlem, Wilmington, North Carolina, East St. Louis, just all across the map there.
Right.
So I mean that's a lot for you to munch on there, but just kind of decipher wills versus inverted insurance policy, and kind of where do we go from here, because that's a lot. I mean, that's probably going to be about 4 or 5 different shows there for you to get down to the meat of all that. But
Yes. No, you're absolutely right.
And I'll hang up and listen to you over the air then. But we'll talk again, though.
Okay, I appreciate your comment though. Before you go, let me. Oh, I think. Okay. Well, I think we might have lost him, but I was going to just address the comments a little bit here. When last week when we started and talking about estate planning is such a broad topic, I thought we might take several weeks to break it down and have various topics. Last week was guardianship. Today we're talking about wills. There will definitely come a show where we talk about insurance, because again, I think all of this is an important part of the estate planning process. I don't see it necessarily as wills versus insurance. I think it's good to have both estate planning tools in place. But the one comment that I wanted to make as far as the Tulsa situation as relates to insurance, from what I understand in my studying of history, a lot of those business owners did have insurance, but some of the problem with the times, the racism at the time, a lot of those contracts weren't honored. They looked for reasons to deny those policies because they didn't want people to rebuild. So that was a deliberate effort to sabotage the town and destroy the town and make sure they could not rebuild. So
you
that
say
was
some of
part
the
of
bankers may have been in the melee?
Oh, no doubt.
Some of them had hoods on.
Yeah. I mean, to the extent that there was a lot of self-sufficiency and independence that, they were establishing their own insurance companies or perhaps their own banks. Still, that's a challenge because these are the businesses that were destroyed in all of this. But those that may have had insurance policies that should have been honored from another institution, all of that was undermined because the goal was to destroy that town. So hopefully we're at a better time in history now that if people have insurance policies that ought to be honored as long as the terms of those contracts are met, hopefully we're at a better time in history so that what happened there wouldn't happen again as relates to claims being denied that should have been properly paid. So that's my response to that. I wanted the caller to stay on so that we could talk a little bit back and forth about that. But
you
okay,
said that? Okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine because I am always enjoying when people call in and because I'm here to learn too. We're educating people, but we're educating one another at the same time.
He'll call you back.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. We can continue to have that discussion if there's any feedback on that. So he was talking about Prince and I was talking about Prince and the fact that one thing that I was going to mention here, Prince was only 57 years old when he died. So estate planning is not just for the elderly. And I'm old enough now to know that 57 is not old, right? Like maybe the 25-year-olds might think that's old, but it's not. And that time goes by fast. So sometimes people think, oh, I'll deal with that when I get older. When I'm elderly, I'll worry about that. No, it's actually important to, put those things in place. And especially someone as wealthy as he was, to no matter what the age, if you've got that kind of estate, if you've got hundreds of millions of dollars, whether it's cash, whether it's assets, whether it's ownership rights to music and so forth, in his case, you want to have some say over what happens with those things. That's just natural. So give us a call at 414-444-5250 with any questions or any comments that you would like to make about today's topic.
So, you know what? I think we can go to break because then I do got a question I want to ask you, but it's going to be take a little longer than 2 minutes.
Okay. All right. That sounds fine. Okay. We'll be right back with Money Talks with Attorney Coral, sponsored by Columbia Savings and Loan, celebrating 100 years in business. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be right back. Money.
Looking for the perfect spot to unwind and hang out with your friends? Well, come visit Brownstone Social Lounge, located at 524 North Water Street, Milwaukee's premier downtown social lounge. For good vibes, great music, and delicious food, be sure to try our amazing wings and drink specials during our all-day happy hour on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And that's not all. You can also enjoy happy hour from Thursday to Sunday from 4 p.m. until 7 p.m. For more information, please call 414-204-0103. Brownstone Social Lounge.
Does owning a home seem out of reach? Let us help you outline the steps to get there. Join Columbia Savings and Loan Association and Port Washington State Bank for one of our home buying seminars on Friday, March 15th at 12 p.m. and 5 p.m. Learn about home buying steps for success, how banks look at credit, and discover grants and programs that could be available to you. Seating is limited. Register now at www.pwsb.bank/seminar. Equal housing lender, member FDIC, NMLS IDs 460-289 and 810969.
Carter's Creations, when quality and service matters. For any occasion, sometimes you just want to send a floral arrangement for a get well, anniversary, birthday, or I messed up, or just because. Carter's Creations at 1727 West Hampton Avenue is the place you need to call. So call them today at 414-265-1727 or visit them online at carterscreations.com. Carter's Creations has been in business for over 30 years. Therefore, you know they know what they're doing. They also specialize in funerals as well. So when you need that special floral arrangement, think of Carter's Creations, when quality and service matters. You know his name, you know his legacy. Now Milwaukee Chamber Theater's production of The Mountaintop by Katori Hill invites you to explore and imagine the human side of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. On stage March 8th through the 24th. Black community members are invited to join Milwaukee Chamber Theater at Legacy Night on March 22nd for a special performance of The Mountaintop, hosted by Copyright Magazine that celebrates Black culture and its legacy. Legacy Night tickets are $20. Get all the details at MilwaukeeChamberTheater.org. Easter and prom is here, and graduation is near. Stop by Nick Avani's, where they have a large variety of suits, blazers, and shoes to get you right for that special day. You already know Nick Avani has the $100 hookup. You can get a suit, shirt, tie, and shoes, all for just $100. They're open 7 days a week with an on-site tailor. Nick Avani's on the second floor of the Mayfair Mall across from the movie theater. It's the place to shop for men.
You're listening to WNOV 860 and W293CX 106.5 Milwaukee.
Welcome back. This is Money Talks with Attorney Coral. Looks like there's a question from the studio. Go ahead, Keon.
Yeah, Miss Coral. So, okay, and I've done a lot of funeral planning. My dad's family, 6 kids, 2 grandparents. I got 2 left, so we went through a lot of this with and without wills, probate, and all kind of stuff. So, you've already explained that there's the wife or the husband, the partner, and if it's not them, it goes directly to them if it's a complete family. And then there is the possibility of children before that marriage.
Right.
So what if it's children before that marriage and grandchildren?
Well, the way that the statute is set up in Wisconsin,
Okay.
grandchildren don't inherit. Right?
Don't they inherit the portion of the parent?
Not necessarily, not unless you specifically say that. The grandchildren, that's why if you want to leave to grandchildren, it's important to specifically say so. Because let's say the son or daughter, right, who had those grandchildren predeceases the parent. If there's no other heirs, it's potentially can come to the grandchildren. But let's say that parent, it's hard to, like, I'm trying to say it without making it muddled because you almost need to sketch this out to see a flow chart. But let's say there's a parent, right? And that parent has 2 children, a son and a daughter. Let's say that the daughter has a child. So you've got the parent and you've got the grandchild, you've got the son and the daughter in between. So if the daughter predeceases the parent, then if the other son or daughter, I think I said it was a son, the daughter's gone, then the son is the heir. If the grandparent wants to leave something for those grandchildren, then they need to write that up.
So what about a matter of probate? Because I was told, and this is what happened. When my grandmother passed, she had already lost 3 children.
Okay.
So in order to not do probate, it was as though each parent, each of my aunts and uncles who passed, we had to have their children sign off that they didn't want anything.
Okay.
Yep. So therefore, they had a say.
Yeah. Potentially, they would. And so, in order for sake of completeness, just to squash any claims that might try to come up later, for sake of completeness, they would want you to sign off with respect to that.
But if the claim, so that's what I was asking, because you said the claims could try to come up. That means they have something to stand on.
Well, they're blood relatives.
Got you.
Right? So that's why it gets muddled. That's why it gets to be a little bit messy. And that's why we're suggesting to people today, recommending that you put something in writing so that all these what ifs don't have to come into effect. Yeah.
And that's where the warring starts.
Right. Which is something that I would like a chance to talk about, but we've got some callers holding. So I think we'll take a caller. Go ahead, caller.
They don't want to vote. They rather sit.
Hello?
Caller. They'll call back.
Okay. Yep. So there's another caller holding. Go ahead, caller.
Well, yeah, thank you. I just wanted to honor and respect the fact that you wanted to have a follow-up dialogue or question with me. So please forgive me, because one thing you have to learn and understand about me is I never want to be greedy, except for the things I'm supposed to be on. But then I don't want to be disrespectful by denying other callers. So I'm open to any questions that you have for me. This is Tyrone W. again.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you calling back. I was just commenting before that because you brought up the Tulsa matter.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes,
I was
ma'am.
just saying that in some of the reading or research that I've had with respect to what happened there is that sometimes the business owners had insurance, but because of the times that they were in, the insurance companies looked for reasons to deny claims to those Black businesses back then. So it was just a troubled time. So I was just following up with that comment and,
Well,
just interested in any input that you might have on that.
and now that I'm back, well, I'll just say this. I mean, well, as far as, and this kind of leans more toward insurance as opposed to wills, but it possibly could and enhance and lean over toward wills there. But, my brother was 2 years older than me. He passed complications from diabetic complications. And the will that we've had on him didn't allow us to do certain things that we wanted to do with him on his homegoing. February 1st in 2013.
Okay.
So I've talked about this. I believe Jermaine Reed, when he was on the air, insurance companies, there's a term called pump and dump. In other words, pump all the money out to people and then dump them.
Right.
In other words, the policy ain't worth toilet paper. It ain't worth the paper it's written on. Some of them. They send you through the fine print and all this stuff, and they don't do what they say they're going to do. So that incorporating that with Tulsa and everything, well, yeah, that they were trying to do that to them. But I don't know the full extent of wills and everything, because you see it going through, James Brown, of course, like you said, Prince. There may have even been some stuff behind Michael and, many others,
Right.
We've had people, Josephine Baker and other people move to France and all this other stuff just to get away from the evilness and the devilment of, what has been perpetrated on us over the years.
Right. Right.
So yeah, there's so much to it, but yeah, like I said, I had to learn the hard way through the song itself. They dropped a bomb on me, but that's not what we was bumping booties to. All in all, they really actually did. And thank you, Gap Band, and thank you for what you do. But there's always room to learn, and there's many things that we still are uncovering that they haven't told us.
Right.
About the true Black Jesus and everything. Because if that's the case, then they need to go into what's the secrecy of the shrinery and the Masons and all there, and who well, I won't say who, but I'll say very quickly. Did you want me to hold on, or what? I hear the music.
No, that didn't mean that was the bell. Ring the alarm.
Well, let me run this name by here, and then I'll listen to you. But I'll be welcome to call in as time goes by.
Okay.
Esau Ibn Yusuf.
Okay, that sounds good.
Now, what that entails? That entails a lot of ceremony and stuff there with Shriners and Masons and stuff there, viewing the body of supposed to be the Black Jesus, Esau Ibn Yusuf. So
right.
There's a lot to dig there, but yeah, that's the Pope too. They visit his body and everything to do a lot of their ceremonies and stuff there to get the Pope's ring and all this other stuff. Esau Ibn Yusuf, Ibn, however you want to pronounce it.
Okay.
But yeah, so
but I thank you. I do thank you for calling in, and I appreciate your commentary. Look forward to talking to you again sometime. Thank you so much. Okay, looks like we have another caller. Caller, go ahead, please.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for taking my call.
Okay, you're all welcome.
And my dad, he died in 2005. He was married to not my mom, another lady, and so she passed away, so her kid came. Her her kid, they went to sell the house, and so I get a call and they said that, hey, you came up as an heir on your dad's side, and yeah, it was just a bunch of crap, that goes on with these type of things. Anyways, um, is there a way that you could get your money out without them selling the house?
Well, it's a little bit of a challenge after the fact. I have to say that it would be tough for me to give precise legal advice without maybe sitting and talking and getting more details from you about it. So I'll say that my law firm number is 414
Oh, just a second.
247. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Let you go ahead and get something to write it down. The name of the law firm is the Ples Law Firm, and
The name of it is what?
the Ples Law Firm, and I'm the owner. So you would call to speak to me. I'm attorney Coral Ples, and let me know if you have a pen or pencil handy, and then I will give that number. I'll also share it again before the end of the show if people have these specific types of questions. But I do want to offer a general response to that. But if you need something more specific, then I would ask that you go ahead and give me a call. One of the ways to address these types of issues, and it's something that I actually plan to touch on a little bit later in the show. I don't know if we're going to really get into it all. If not, we'll probably revisit a little bit later. But sometimes people use a trust rather than just a
Okay.
simple will in order
Yeah, there
to
was there was there
it.
was no excuse me, there was no will and no trust.
Okay,
I
so
just came up I just came up as an heir.
right. So that's what makes it difficult kind of after the fact. That's why the planning that we're talking about is beforehand. Your situation is a little bit different. So
Uh-huh.
I'll need you to give me a call so that we can, maybe talk through it with a few more details. But yeah, the best way to address something like that is to head it off before it happens. I know that doesn't help you in this particular situation, but there is a
Hmm.
way to craft estate planning tools to deal with that issue of two spouses and one of them passes on, and maybe they had children together, and then the other spouse goes on and remarries another person, and then maybe the new spouse might be a bad influencer and they squander whatever the assets would have been that the children might have inherited. So one way of addressing that is to set up a trust rather than just a will. But there's pros and
Hmm.
cons to that too, and there's differences to what that means. So, but as far as your question, feel free to call me at 414 247 nine
Two,
five
four,
seven
seven,
zero.
nine,
Okay. And
five,
okay. And so the number again here for the
seven,
station, I
zero.
don't want to give out so many numbers that I'm confusing people, but the number here is 414 444 5250. So I am inviting people to call with their questions. So thank you, caller. I'll talk to you in
Thank
more
you.
detail privately. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Miss Cole, ironically, before the caller, I got a text. As Marquise, if convenient. I'll ask Marquise if convenient. When a person has a trust fund, what is that, and does one have to have a certain amount of assets to set up a trust fund for a kin? Now, my grandmother had written a will, and she had one of the church members, one of the attorneys at the church, had put it together. He was a well-known attorney, and I took it down. I took it down when she was sick to the probate office, and he said, "Oh, this guy, great guy, horrible lawyer." So what he did was, remember I was talking about setting up the children, and then you got grandchildren. Well, one of my cousins, one of the grandchildren, has behavioral health issues.
Right.
So he was like, shouldn't have. They should have did this like this, and should have set up a trust instead of allowing her equal. So what is all that with the trust? How does that
Yeah,
work?
yeah. Yeah, a trust is different from a will because a trust is basically where you are setting up an arrangement whereby you transfer assets or cash. It could be a house, it could be a business, it could be cash. You transfer that through written documents into a trust, and assign a person or an entity to be a trustee to oversee those assets in order to, at a later time, or at whatever time is prescribed in the terms of the trust, to protect those assets and disperse them to the beneficiaries according to the terms of that trust. So it's an opportunity to be far more specific or detailed about how you would like things to be handled. It's something that you create while you're alive. You can activate it while you're still here, or it may become active after you pass away. Um, and it's more complicated than a will, much more costly to put in place than a will, because of the specificity of the legal expertise that must be relied upon, which, like in the instance that you gave, it sounds like maybe something came up short with the example that you gave there. So it's important to make that investment. I'm not going to say that there needs to be a certain amount of money involved, but obviously, if there's a lot of money involved, it's worth spending the money in order to protect a lot of money. If the assets are not as great, then maybe a trust is a good idea, or maybe it isn't. And especially in a situation where you've got someone that may have some mental deficiencies that they need to be cared for, and you can't say, I'm going to write a will and leave this to my son who's compromised, from a mental standpoint. No, I want to create a trust, put someone trustworthy in charge of it so that they can take care of this person. So that's I think maybe the best kind of broad, like general answer that I can give without getting into specifics, but that would be the difference. Yes. So looks like we have a caller. Caller, go ahead.
Good morning. I hope this is me.
That's you.
Okay. All right. Well, how you doing this
Doing great.
morning?
Doing great. How
This
are you
morning.
today?
Okay. Now you have one of those names. So could you spell your first name and last name, please?
Absolutely. My first name is Coral, Coral. Sometimes people mix it up as Carol, but I do have a cousin, Carol, who has the same last name as mine. So I try to be clear that I'm Coral and she's Carol. So it's Coral. And the last name is Ples. Okay. So think of it as please without the E on the end. So it's Pleas.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank
You might
you.
as well get a number again because somebody told me they only caught the first three numbers.
Sorry, folks. The number for the law office is 414-247-9570. That is 414-247-9570.
Got it. Enjoy the rest of the day and don't work too hard.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate you calling in. Okay, so one of the things, I mean, I'm glad that this topic is lively and we're having people call in. We're probably going to need to continue some of this on another day. But am I seeing that right, Keon? Is there another caller holding?
Nope, just didn't let that one go.
Okay. All right. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about also today is things that you can do to help avoid relatives fighting over your estate. Right. So this topic of wills can go on and it's deep and it's complicated, but I just wanted to talk about some of the things that you can just kind of keep in mind when you're trying to, or you're thinking of putting an estate plan or a will together that you would like for people to not contest. The problem is that people fight when they don't like the outcome. They don't like the terms or whatever that you put in your will. And oftentimes it's siblings, brothers and sisters that don't like how mom or dad or mom and dad left the terms of their will. And I don't like seeing this because I've seen situations where siblings end up as enemies and sometimes not speaking to one another. And that's sad to me. So I don't like to see that sort of thing happen. So you want to talk to people about things that they can do potentially to avoid their children fighting over their estate. So people can contest an estate, right? People always ask me all the time, can they contest that? And then I say, you can contest anything, but you're not going to win. if the only reason you're contesting it is because the will says something that you don't like, right? That's not grounds. So you have to look for reasons to contest an estate. Um, Again, I don't like when that sort of thing happens. So I try to give people a heads up on the planning side of things so that you can maybe anticipate things and try to avoid contests as best you can. So, what are some of the reasons that people are able to contest an estate? Well, one reason would be they may try to say that the will is invalid. You know, this isn't my dad's signature. This isn't the original copy. This isn't the will. And, those sorts of things can raise questions. Um, Sometimes it is asserted that there was undue influence that might have been exercised over that parent. So let's say there are two sisters, and one sister scheduled the appointment for the parent with the attorney. And that sister told the attorney, this is what the parent wants in the will. And then that sister drove the parent to the appointment with the attorney and sat in on the appointment with the attorney. And then you end up with a will that leaves everything disproportionately, perhaps to that one sister that facilitated all of this. That leaves the will exposed. That's just asking for someone to come and contest it. So you want to avoid anything that looks like impropriety. So undue influence is how the law references that. The other thing that allows a will to be attacked or contested is the capacity of the testator. So again, the testator is the person who's writing the will, or whose will it is, who's giving those terms. So capacity, well, what does that mean? We're talking about their mental ability to create a will. I've had situations where people will call me and say, "Oh, my father is, 90 years old and he's not well, and he, is I hate to say it like this, but literally on his deathbed, can you come over and put a will together and we'll see if we can get him to sign?" Well, see, that's the sort of thing that I like to avoid. Does that person really have the capacity at that stage to create a will? Or are they so ill that their mental capacity isn't what it once was? If the person cannot understand the document, if they cannot understand the terms, or there's a question about whether or not they even understand what it is, what you're trying to do, and what they're signing, then they really don't have the capacity to make that document. So it goes back to what I was saying earlier in the show, that Prince was only 57, but it would have been a good thing if these types of documents had been in place. When you're young, you're healthy, and you think that this isn't important, but that's the time to do it. You don't wait until you're so elderly that your capacity might be challenged. So what can you do to reduce the likelihood of a fight over your estate? Well, it's something that you brought up a minute ago, Keon. It's like you are tracking right with me here, because the first comment that I have on that is to get good advice. You got to get good advice. And that means someone who'll sit down and maybe talk through some of these types of issues with you. So to anticipate what the problems might be potentially, right? You want to know who the family members are, what the relationships are like, what sorts of things you want to put into your documents. You want to dot those I's and cross those T's, and make sure that you come out with documents, particularly that there's no ambiguity in the documents, because sometimes that happens too. And documents get written, let's say a will, for instance, and there may be an ambiguity somehow in the wording where it's not crystal clear who you're intending to leave things to. You'd be surprised at how often those sorts of things can come up. So I would say that that's one thing to look out for. Um, Another thing that can be done to try to avoid people, your heirs, fighting over your will, is to write into the will what is called a no contest clause. And I haven't done that in a lot of wills, but there are people that have come that more and more are looking for that sort of clause to be in their will, and the law finds that to be acceptable. So basically, a no contest clause says that it's directed to any of the heirs, right? And it's saying that if you contest anything in this will, that I'm going to ask that your share of it be denied to you. Okay. And that's me paraphrasing, but that's the gist of what it says. It's legal in Wisconsin to put a no contest clause in your will. So you're basically saying, if you challenge this, if you challenge what I'm saying, then I'm going to direct that you don't get your inheritance. And that is pretty good deterrence for some people. Okay. The next thing, I think this is number 3 in terms of recommendations. I think I had 5 top things that you can do to avoid relatives fighting over your estate. Um, we touched on this earlier, but you create an estate plan while your capacity is good. Perhaps you have an illness and you may deteriorate over time. You may deteriorate rapidly, but create an estate plan while your capacity is good, while your thinking is on point and you know what you're saying and you know what you're signing. Um, Number 4, don't let it appear that you're being influenced by someone. Again, that was something that I was planning to talk about, but one of the calls, or it was either that or a question that you asked me, Keon, earlier that prompted me to talk about that and give the example of one, um, the one sibling bringing the attorney to come and meet with, or excuse me, bringing the parent to come and meet with the attorney and choosing the attorney and talking to the attorney and telling the attorney what the parent wants and sitting in on the meeting and that sort of thing. That can be very problematic. So you're encouraged to avoid those sorts of estate planning circumstances because you're just allowing yourself, you're just asking for someone to call or to contest and to challenge that estate plan. And number 5, communicate. Um, Communication is your blunt truth to your heirs, right? Maybe to your sons or daughters. You can have a situation where you, for your own reasons, not that you have to explain yourself to anyone, but communication can go a long way to soothing her feelings in situations like this. So, the example that comes to my mind is, let's say a mom has 2 daughters, and one daughter has sacrificed her career, taking the mother to medical appointments. She cooks, she cleans, she takes care of mom, and the other daughter perhaps didn't for maybe perfectly good reasons or not. But in any event, the mother may choose then, upon her demise, to leave her estate disproportionately to the sister that sacrificed and set herself back in her career and in other ways in order to take care of that mom. So that's a blunt truth that I'm describing here, where you may want to say to those daughters, listen, I'm leaving the majority of my estate to this child of mine as opposed to you, not because I love her more than you. I certainly don't love you any less, but I'm looking at this as the investment of her time that went into taking care of me, and I want to compensate for that once I'm no longer alive. So those are things that are difficult to talk about, but those are the types of things that we consider when you're looking at ways to try to create an estate plan that people aren't going to contest and challenge. So feel free to give us a call at the station, 414-444-5250. And we are going to take a break and come right back with more Money Talks with Attorney Coral. Thank you.
She's been called a vocal force to be reckoned with, and now you can experience the artistry of Shayna Steele live and in person when she joins the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra for Nothing But the Blues, March 15th through the 17th at the Bradley Symphony Center. Call 414-291-7605 for tickets or visit mso.org. Shayna Steele will take you on a musical odyssey with popular tunes that helped establish great artists such as Bessie Smith, Billie Holiday, and Louis Armstrong, as well as the blues genre itself. From the St. Louis Blues to House of the Rising Sun and Baby Won't You Please Come Home, you'll be swinging and swaying in your seat. So come and bask in the vocal glory of Shayna Steele with the MSO in Nothing But the Blues, March 15th through the 17th only. Visit MSO.org for tickets or call 414-291-7605.
This is Martina Golan-Graves, President and CEO with Mental Health America of Wisconsin. I want to take a moment to remind you that your mental health matters. This time of year can be stressful, but we have programs and services committed to supporting our community. We are a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping adults and kids live mentally healthier lives. We offer online screenings, outpatient therapy, and a peer-run warm line for support day and night. Call us today, 414-276-3122, or visit mhawisconsin.org to learn more about these services and more.
2024 Soul Stirring Gospel Easter Band, March 31st, sponsored by the New Pitts Mortuary, located at 2031 West on Capitol Drive. Pick your tickets at 45 in advance, 50 at the door. On my way home, the Captain Spiritual. Oh, the gospel for. He's blessing me. I feel it in my feet right now. Baby, you better meet me there. Brunch at 1. The show begins at 4 p.m. The fabulous Lucky Brothers. My soul is a witness. I feel it down on the inside. Be right there at Abundant Faith, located at 7830 West Good Hope Road. Oh, Willie Rogers. We're going to a meeting on that day. I see them marching down the street. Come on in from everywhere, northwest, south. Oh, it's going down. There's a leak in this old building, Bishop Neil Robertson, and my soul has got to move. Don't you miss it. Call the New Pitts Mortuary, 414-447-6000. It's going down at the Soul Stirring Gospel Easter Bash. Oh, I gotta stop right there, Brian McIntyre. My feet got light. I feel myself flying right about now. Come on now, you don't want to miss it. Be right there in the house. It's going down. Come on now, Tiffany Terry. Everybody know he's my friend. Oh, you don't want to miss it. You be right there. That Soul Stirring Gospel Easter Bash. That food is going to be yummy, yummy, yummy. I'll tell you, come on now, Reverend R.L. Bush and the Revived Sons. Put the weight on me. Oh, not that kind of weight, because that food gonna be so scrumptious. Pick your tickets up at the New Pitts Mortuary.
For one night only, Saturday, March 9th, the Marcus Performing Arts Center presents Hubbard Street Dance Company. Over the last 46 years, Hubbard Street Dance Company has been one of the most original forces in contemporary dance, bringing top choreographers and works to Chicago and beyond. Hubbard Street's ever-evolving repertoire, created by today's leading choreographic voices, introduces audiences to original, cutting-edge contemporary dance. Their mission is to bring artists, art, and audiences together to enrich, engage, educate, and change lives through the experience of dance. March 9th at 7:30 p.m. Tickets and information available at marcuscenter.org.
WNOV 860 and W293CX 106.5 Milwaukee.
Okay, welcome back to Money Talks with Attorney Coral, sponsored by Columbia Savings and Loan. I had said at the start of the show that one of the things that we were going to talk about is top topics and items that married couples should discuss before you meet with an estate planning attorney. But I think we're going to run out of time and not be able to talk about that today. But don't worry, I'll remember, and we will be able to take that up at a later time. Right now, it looks like we have a caller holding. And so, caller, please go ahead.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, I'm calling. I have a question. You can answer this, I want to explain something. My mother had a home and she passed. And I let one of my daughters move in, and she didn't pay the taxes. And after she died and I found out she didn't pay the taxes, I paid all the back taxes. I paid all the taxes up to 2021. Now, I'm having a problem with my sister kids because the house was left to me, my brother, and my sister, and they're both deceased, and I'm the only living child. I was trying to get them to sign so I could either get a grant to have the house fixed up or sell it. At first they was agreeing with it, and now they won't sign.
Right.
And I'm just trying to figure out. Now I let the house go. I'm not paying any more taxes on the house, and they're not paying them. So we went to court, and I let the house go into foreclosure.
With the city?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Because I'm 82 years. I'll be 82 in May, and I don't have the money to keep paying, but they won't sign.
Right. Right.
So
And
I'm in a bind.
Yeah. Well, has the city taken ownership of the home yet? Because those
Not
foreclosure
yet.
cases happen pretty fast.
Well, the foreclosure, but they haven't the process. I guess all the paperwork and everything they have to do. It hasn't, because that was the last of January.
Right. Right.
And the lady told me it'll be maybe a few months before everything is processed and the foreclosure comes.
Right. And that's the challenge sometimes with situations like this. You know, when the parent, I'm sure your mom was very well intended in terms of how she left that property to multiple people, but
Yes.
that can present a challenge in a situation like this. And because it's one person paying all the taxes, but other people living there reaping the benefit of the fact that you paid all those taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't continue to do that, then the city will come in and they will take the property based on the taxes that are past due. And unfortunately, it sounds like that's what's going on in this case. So, yeah, I'm sorry that happens to you, but it's yet another one of those situations where planning it differently in the beginning is really the answer. So it's not a good answer for you after the fact, unfortunately. But if you'd like to talk about it any further, you can give me a call at the law firm. The number is 414.
I have the number.
You have the number? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Sounds good. But thank you for calling in. Looks like we've got one more caller. Yes, caller. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning to you and the show. I would just like to say to many people that if you have many people you pass and you want to leave the money to, there's a CD that you can write an extra amount, 500, 200 to each child there, and no one will have to feel slighted, but they'll get this in time, at the death there.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I like that idea to set up payable on death accounts right at the bank. So you're absolutely right. That's certainly good advice.
And each child can't, they'll get this check, whether they fight, fuss, or whatever, but it's one in each hand. If it's 50, it's one, every 50 got one in their hand there, and whatever the amount taken, and be graceful for it, because you didn't have to get that. It might have been a time, the reason you got what you got when you were doing right, you were stealing off the top, and now what's left, you're just getting,
Right.
But that's the way to do it. Buy the CDs and put their name on it and their number. And when that time come, all they got to do is go to the bank and verify it.
Yes.
It's collateral at the bank waiting for them there.
Yes. Thank you so much for that input. Appreciate your comment. Before we leave today, I would just like to remind the audience that Columbia Savings and Loan has a home buyer seminar in partnership with Port Washington State Bank. This home buying seminar will take place on March 15th, which is Friday, 12 p.m. and 5 p.m. at the Columbia Savings and Loan Association, which is located at 2020 West Fond du Lac Avenue. Next week's show, we're going to step away from the estate planning discussion to bring in representatives that are going to talk about this home buying seminar. We'll take up more on estate planning at a later show. But thank you so much for everyone listening. Next week, there will be more information about the home buying seminar with Columbia Savings and Loan Association, the sponsor of this show. Thank you so much, and talk to you next week.
WNOV 860 and W293CX 106.5 Milwaukee. The views and opinions expressed on this show do not reflect that of the staff and management of WNOV and W293CX 106.5 FM Courier Communications Milwaukee, but are the sole comments of the host and guest of this particular show.